everybody. Welcome back to a special day and time of the Conversation Show, because on Friday this week, I will be traveling to the beautiful Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan to go to my cousin's wedding. So we are here today instead, and I have a very special guest with us. I'm super excited because Claudia had a very hard time doing Fridays anyway, and so now it works out perfectly. Today we are talking about igniting your enthusiasm. And I'm really excited about this one because this is kind of what Claudia and I do. And together it's going to be like at the same time. I had a really interesting experience earlier on in my corporate career because I was going to Dale Carnegie training, quite a lot of it because my company wanted to pay for it. So I was like, yeah, sure, feed it to me. And every single time the feedback I got was, you're so enthusiastic. And for a really long time, I thought that I was just an enthusiastic person, right? Like I was enthusiastic about, but let's be honest, I'm not enthusiastic about all things. I am enthusiastic about some things. This conversation is one of them. And a lot of the things that Claudia and I talk about are in those categories, but we're not all by nature enthusiastic about all things. When we get to show up and be in conversation and be learning about the things that we are interested in, that we're passionate about, that align with our personal brands, that is when we can really tap into the enthusiasm. So we're here to talk to everybody about all of these things today, and there's going to be like tons and tons of things that come up. So I want to remind you all, we got some peeps in the comments already. Good morning, Diana. Good morning, Kate. This is a conversation for all of us. So if you guys have thoughts, perspectives, comments, insights, experiences that you want to share today, please pop them in the chat. We will pull it over and include it into the conversation. So please, please, please share your perspectives as well. Now, Ms. Claudia, I'm so excited to have you here today. Can you tell everybody who you are and why you're so passionate about helping people ignite their enthusiasm?
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Tracy. I'm so excited to be here, of course, because you're my jam and this is my jam. So I am with you. Excitement, enthusiasm, passion, it all comes together. It's in every single one of us. We just need to bring it out. And we've been so trained to like subdue and, this professionalism of this is how I am and this is what I'm doing. But the excitement part is what attracts everyone to you. That's what you need to pull out. And I just love when I find someone and I'm like, okay, it's in there. I see it. You can see the twinkle in their eye. You can see the bright in their smile. And you're like, we just need to turn that dial up a little bit more and bring it out. And that's how it happens. It just starts with that little spark. And if I can be there to ignite that spark and bring it out in you, I'm doing it.
And I will vouch for that because I watch Claudia do this all the time, and that's why I'm so excited today. And it's really funny, these little flames that Kate has up here. This is the point, right? Is that we all have a spark, and we're here to fan the flame, turn that spark into a flame. So Claudia, let's start about this because Kate is saying here, I honestly thought, do I need to tamp it down?
No.
AKA, I don't tamp it down. Hashtag authentic self. This is what we're all about here. But I think this is a pretty common experience for people that they've been told that they're too much at some point in their life. I think often in our childhood, right, we're taught to behave, and especially from the female perspective, we still have that like sit still, look pretty kind of narrative. And so even if it's not someone specifically saying, it's usually not someone saying, don't be yourself.
Right? I hope not. I don't know who those people are. Let me get them in a room.
Right. Yeah. That would just be a slap fest, I feel like. I think that's the problem. I think if it was as simple as somebody who like walked up to you in the street and was like, you shouldn't be like yourself, you would be like, get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. But it's not often that obvious, right? It's people that are just like, shh, we need to behave in this restaurant. Or when you're in front, I even remember telling my husband this once because my grandparents are Ukrainian and he was eating pierogies with ketchup. And I was like, you cannot eat pierogies with ketchup in front of me.
You're ruining it.
He will disown you and potentially me. That's not what I'm going for. And that's like a kind of a humorous example, but it's those types of things where we're like, just don't do that. Just don't do that. Just don't do that. And then pretty soon they start to add up to, okay, well, now I'm actively trying to squish myself into this box. So Claudia, tell me a little bit about how you've seen that happen in some of your clients, and maybe what is that first way we can start to notice that we're paying more attention to what other people think than to what we think.
I think it starts with second guessing yourself. If you're about to do anything, whether it's, go into a meeting or just, you're going to a conference or a dinner or whatever, and you want to say something, but you're like, maybe I shouldn't say that. That's like number one. If that's how you feel, then you should say it, regardless of whether the person who you're speaking to agrees with you. That's how dialogue happens. That's how conversation happens. And if it's something that you are genuinely passionate about, that means something to you, regardless of what the other person thinks, it's in your heart that you feel this way. And that's one of the things that I kind of started with myself. I've always been kind of, loud and crazy and fun. And I like that part of me. But there were certain times in my life where I was like, I'm just going to sit here and observe because I'm just not sure. It's kind of like that whole fear of sitting in the front of the class because you might have the answer, but you don't know that you want to be called on because you don't want to go to the board. It's like that whole thing. It goes back to that. Like it's that fear of, what am I doing? What am I saying? Who am I? And when you know who you are, and regardless of the outcome, you don't care. You're just going to be like, this is me. That's when the magic happens. That's when people start attracting to you. And there's going to be people who are not going to get you. I mean, I've gotten that a lot. They're like, I don't really get why you're excited all the time. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, it's not all the time, but it's like probably 98.5% of the time I'm very excited because I like new things. I like people. I like enjoyment. I like experiences. And if I can find the fun in everything, even if it's something mundane, it's going to turn it up in me. And then that makes me feel good. It's like all through me. That's why I'm always dancing around.
Well, you know me. I will dance around. We'll just dance around together. It's awesome. And I think this is it, right? Like you even said it, Claudia. I like that part of me, right? So even if like Kate is sharing some things in here about, you've sure got a lot of energy. Tell us how you really feel.
Do you really want to know how long it's been?
Well, but these are the things, right? And it's really interesting because these phrases on a standalone basis aren't actually an insult, but we absorb them as if they're an insult, right? So like, I feel like, and Claudia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it may not have been like this for your whole life, but if someone says to you, you've sure got a lot of energy, you'd be like, heck yeah, I do. And you'd like move on and you would be like, I'm glad you noticed that about me.
It's the tone of how they say it. And if you're in a room with someone and you see it and they're kind of like, they have this look like, I don't really get you. And I'll be like, so what exactly is it that you don't get about my energy? Do you need some more of it? Like I might get in your face just a little bit more because I want to see what's going to happen because I'm a very curious person as well. But everyone has their own way of unlocking that. And it comes down to when you know who you are, which takes time. We all go through this journey of digging deep and understanding ourselves. You become more comfortable with yourself. And other people will become comfortable with you when they know you're comfortable with yourself. So if I'm in the room and you're not really sure about me and I'm like, hey, how's it going? Let's, get together. Let's talk, whatever. I'm going to start interacting with you. Eventually you're going to start softening because you're going to realize, oh, this is how she is. This isn't a game. This isn't an act. This isn't whatever. Because I know we've all met some shady people there's an ulterior motive in why are they paying attention to me? With me, there isn't. I just want to know you. And when I get to know you, you're going to start feeding off me. And then we're going to be laughing and talking and crazy. And it's going to be fun.
Well, and this is the thing too, right? Like we all have our own experiences that we're basing future interactions on. And if we've come from a culture or a family unit or a school setting that was constantly like, you need to tone down. You need to tone down that energy, right? Then when you see someone else who's like reflecting that back at you, your narrative will be like, you need to tone that down. Right. And so it's not even that you actually believe that. It's that that's just
programmed.
That's your program. And I think that is the thing that's really interesting, because I like to interpret this way, right? When people tell me that I sure got a lot of energy, that I'm like, I feel you. What you're really saying is you wish you had the same amount of energy that I do. And that's how I interpret it, right? Because I now have experiences that tell me people want energy, right? Like they wish that they had more of it. I think there's very few people, even people like Claudia, who are 98% energy, say like, I could have more energy. Like, yeah, like how do I explore and find ways to find more energy? It's just part of that. I guess I like to call it reprogramming, right? Because when we're growing up and we're receiving all of these narratives, we don't really have the knowledge to say like, oh, no, that's just my mom's narrative. That's fine, right? Like, and she can have that and I can have my own, and that's fine. And we can love each other and it starts to become like, oh, okay, I need to behave like this, because if I behave like this, I'm professional, or I'm lovable, or I'm acceptable, or I'm fill in the blank with whatever word you've heard in your own head that does that. But I think it is. Let's talk about this, Claudia, because I like to use the phrase permission to do you, right? Like that's kind of my go-to. You guys will hear it later on in the show as well. But we really need to give ourselves permission to look at how we used to be. And let's say we're even some like good things in the chat I'll pull in here, right? Like 56% of how we communicate is body language, 36% is tone of voice. And communication is always a two-party system, right? So there's a giver of information and there's a receiver of information. And again, our narrative about like, what does tone of voice mean? Does tone of voice mean that I'm unacceptable? There's something wrong with me? Or does tone of voice mean that there's something wrong with the person who's saying it? Because I've found that most of the time it's like, I can't control another person's behavior, right? They only I can control my own behavior. So I can control my own tone of voice most of the time. None of us are perfect. Right? We're not here to pretend that we're perfect. Nope. But it is about, it's about the knowledge that's associated with it, right? When we say things, and Stephen is sharing here about misguided intonation, it's so important to attention to the nonverbal cues, but also what your own body is telling you that means, right? I want to share this example because this happened to me just recently. And my son was playing at the park with another little girl. And so I was talking to her dad, and he was saying, they're in the same class at school. And he was saying she was so excited to go to school because her two older brothers go to school. And he was like, is Nicholas excited? And I'm like, well, he's an only child. So he doesn't have any kids to like get him excited to go to school. He doesn't really know what going to school implies. Right. And his comment to me was like, why didn't you give him any siblings? And for those of you who know my story, we tried and it didn't work. Okay. Many things, grief counseling, all the things. Right. And so it's not that he meant anything. He was just being curious, right? Because he has 3 kids. He has his own story. And for me, I was like, ooh, I am like so mad about this comment. Actually, fun fact, same dad yesterday at the park said the dads have to get back to work. And I was like, my interpretation of that is that the moms don't have to go back to work, but this is my problem.
Who's this guy? Let's get him on the show.
That's more of a coaching episode. Anyway, what this has taught me is that like a person can only communicate from their own perspective, from their own book of experiences, right? And I don't have the same experiences. And so I can take that as a shot against me Or I can take it as usually what I think, I was like, wow, this guy like really doesn't have any other perspectives in this topic, right? Like and it becomes super interesting to me because I'm interested in people. But I think that's an important, I think this is a really great place to kind of, we have to break the relationship between what someone says about us and our belief about ourselves related to that thing.
100%.
It was terrible language, but yeah.
I get what you're saying though. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
There's an exercise that I do with a lot of people that I did myself, and I call it, what are you allowing? And when you're having a conversation with somebody who you know pushes your buttons, but it's not maybe a person that you can avoid, you're falling into the trap if you're reacting to what's going on. Take a pause and go, okay, do I really need to get involved in this? Is this something that I really believe? Is this person, do they have a clue what they're even doing? And most of the time what you're going to figure out is what's coming out of their mouth is more about them than it is about you. And whether that's their perspective or what they've been conditioned to know or whatever, you know how you feel and what your parameters, your core values are. So in a situation like that for me, because I can get that fighting spirit out in me and I'm like, whoa, hold on. Is that worth it? Is that worth your time, your energy? Because if you react to this situation like a crazy person, you are allowing him or her or whomever to take your power. And then they are controlling your narrative. They're controlling how you're responding to everything. You are in control of yourself. So take a minute and go, okay, how do I feel about this? And then respond accordingly by not reacting. When you react, because I used to be a big reactor, I would just be like, whoa, do you want to go? Like, is this a thing? And then I realized, you know what? I leave these conversations upset. I feel like a different person, like I became someone I'm not, because I took their energy and became what they were actually saying, as opposed to standing in my own self. And then when you realize that and you go, okay, do you know how much calmer you are? How much better you feel? Because you're like, I'm not allowing that kind of behavior anymore. I go, that's fine if that's what you think and that's great for you. Doesn't work for me. And walk away, and be done. And it's so liberating because you don't get involved in this whole cyclone of all kinds of emotions and feelings and verbal things. And that's where regrets come from a lot, because you're going to say something that you maybe shouldn't have because you're in defense mode. But when you just step into, do I really want to allow this right now? I don't think so. It's not really worth me. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. I'm good.
Yeah.
And when they don't get that response from you that they're used to getting, they don't know what to do with you. They're like,
it's confused.
Oh, there's nothing happening here. Okay. And then they start going back in their own brain. And I'm like, you know what? You go research that and figure that out. I'm good with me today because I stood in my own power and said, no, I'm not doing it. So it kind of goes into boundaries too.
And I think, when I had an experience like this just recently with my parents, actually. And I think that's one of the hardest relationships to start to incorporate some of these things, because for a really long time, I would just go to my parents' house and be like, okay, I've just accepted that the juju here is bad. And I'm just going to feel just not optimal when I'm here. Right. And since I've had my new revelation, I haven't been back there. So we'll see how that's different next time. But they were at my house and they were, I don't know, they're just parents, right? They bicker about things. But they wanted to bicker on my front deck. And I just moved to a new town. And I was like, no. And I told them, right? And it was like the first time in that relationship, I had felt like, yes, this is what's happening. I am protecting my energy and my boundaries, and I am saying no to this. I'm not going to have a fight with you about it. This is the boundary. This way, you can fight in the car or you can fight in the house. These are the two options.
I can so relate to what you're saying right now, more than you even know. My mom is the only person in the whole world that can really get a rise out of me.
Yeah.
And it has been a constant battle over the last 3 years to learn how to maintain composure and say, I'm not doing that. And I actually have literally said to her, I'm not doing this with you. So if you would like to have, an argument, you can do that by yourself, because I'm not going to play that game with you anymore, because it used to turn into this whole thing. It would be days and, I'm like, nope. So I'll just say, I'm not doing that with you. If you'd like to have a conversation, I would love to have one with you, but I'm not fighting with you today. That's not a thing. And she was like, what? I'm like, ha, it took me almost my entire life, but I figured out how to not engage in this toxic behavior with you anymore. I'm not doing it.
And so what we've learned here today is that it might take a minute for us to practice the skills. And I'll tell you guys, it's a lot easier to like practice those types of boundary skills on like a troll on a social media post than it is on your mother. Right. So the depth of relationships that you have will impact the ease of use of that. But it's just important to know that these skills come from practice. So Claudia, I want to tie this back to the topic today, which is igniting your enthusiasm. And I think it's important, in order to create space for us to ignite our enthusiasm, we can't be giving away our energy and our peace of mind to the things that, if we looked at, let's look at a clock, right? We have a defined amount of time in a day. And if we're spending a lot of that time giving away our energy, we don't retain that time to ignite our own enthusiasm. So it's really important to take these types of first steps before we can even get into the conversation of igniting a flame.
I completely agree with you on that. You need to know what deserves your time and what doesn't. And you need to know what you are feeling. I'm high energy. I run on all cylinders most of the day. Not super great early in the morning. That's my time to like get my brain together, right? That's my whole meditation moments and my visualization and all my little self-care things that I do. And then I go into the day. Well, I run pretty much on all cylinders most of the time, but I also need to know when I need rest and when I need to take myself out of a situation when I'm starting to feel depleted, because I know I won't be at my best. When you're in an energy situation where you're giving, like you said, all the time, you need to know how to take care of yourself in order to harness the energy that you have for the good, for the good things that you want, for the fun things that you want to do. If by the time you're getting to your thing, you're already like, I think I need a nap because I'm not going to be able to do that now. Where is your time and your energy going? Just get out like a piece of paper, or, for the tech people, your phone, and make a list of what you do in a day. Like calculate every single thing that you do, from getting up to brushing your teeth to, showering, running errands, whatever. Write it all down and see where your time and energy is. And write down how many minutes you feel like you spend on these things. Because when you look at it and you go at the end of the day, why am I so tired? Because I hear this from a lot of people, I'm tired all the time. It's because you're throwing energy away for things that aren't necessarily something you have to do today. So I'll look at my list and go, okay, there's the to-do list. And my great friend Lisa made a to-don't list, and I live by that. And Lisa Williams is fantastic. And so I put the to-don't list there and I go, okay, not everything has to be done today. And that's something I had to learn hard on my own, because I was always buzzing. I used to get up, like literally the alarm would go off, my feet would hit the ground, and I would be running. This is what I'm doing. This is what's happening. Like from the second I was in the shower, like everything. And I said, hold on. You don't have to just hit the ground running every single day. Like you can ease into it. You can pause into it, because you're feeling like you're rushed and you're on this high anxiety train all the time, because you're always, something has to be done. Well, not right now. It doesn't. And I live in the place of at least 1 hour a day is for me. I don't take meetings. I don't do anything I don't want to do. And then every month I block off one whole day. That's my day to do whatever I want. And the more you can do that, the better. Because I meet people all the time that are like, I can't take that much time because I feel guilty. And I'm like, no, you have to be able to fill your own cup. And that excitement and energy that you want for the things that you love is not going to be there if you're always worried about what's coming next.
I think this is so interesting. And one of the phrases that Stephen is using here is about the tempo, right? And I think a lot of times when people are thinking about enthusiasm, that what that looks like is moving at that really high tempo every day, like all day, every day, right? And I think this is an important part of the conversation because that does not ignite. Running on empty doesn't ignite enthusiasm, right? And there's a lot of things like a while back now, I used to like do the dishes every day at the end of the day because I do like to have a clean kitchen when I get up in the morning, right? Like it's pleasant. And I realized that it was causing me a lot of stress to get the dishes done every day. So I did two things. One, I gave myself permission not to do the dishes every day. Now I still do the dishes most days because I actually quite enjoy doing the dishes most of the time when I'm actually in the act of doing it. But I give myself permission to not do it because I'm not a bad mother if I don't do the dishes. I'm not a bad wife if I don't do the dishes. I'm not a bad person if I don't do the dishes, right? I didn't do the dishes today. Secondly, I gave myself permission to ask for help with the dishes. So the other day, I kept walking by the dishes and they had been there for a couple of days. I kept walking by, I was like, I have to do the dishes, right? And then I was like, no, I would like for the dishes to get done is really what's going on in my head right now. And my husband sitting and watching football. And so I should probably just ask him if he would do the dishes while he's watching the football game. And abracadabra, the dishes were done. I was like, we find it so hard to just ask for help because we assume that these are things that we have to do, right? And again, when we talk about things like igniting your enthusiasm, this isn't just about like you doing things, right? It's about being in conversations with people who light you up. It's about asking for help when you need it. It's about slowing down the tempo when that is the thing that is going to contribute to your capability for enthusiasm. And and let's talk about this a little bit, Claudia. It's different for every person. So like Claudia's morning routine works for Claudia. It doesn't necessarily work for Tracy or Kate or Steven or anybody else. Right? So what are some of the tips you have in like helping us find those things that allow us to create the space for ourselves to find time for enthusiasm?
There's always time for enthusiasm. It's there.
This is my favorite thing about, just to share this quickly, my favorite thing to say about time is you always have as much of it as you think you have. So if you think you have none, you have none.
No, exactly.
If you think you have time, then you have time. And I have seen this over and over and over to be true.
I agree completely. The first thing everyone needs to do is there's always something every single one of us has, and it can be completely different, that we love doing, no matter what it is. It can be that I love dancing and it's fun. It can be that I love shopping and travel and great food. So taking that list of things that you love and finding time to incorporate them into your day. It doesn't have to be a whole day experience. It could be a minute. Like if you're doing the dishes and you're dancing to your favorite song, that changes the whole game, doesn't it? Yes, sure. Because now you're like feeling your energy come back, which is wonderful. And that makes the dishes more fun, which is igniting the enthusiasm, which is great. But you have to find your time, the time of day when you know that you are like on cloud nine, planet high, whatever. And the time when you're like, okay, I know this is the time of day when I'm depleted. And I know when I need to rest. And for me, that's like, I love nights, but I've had to turn myself into kind of a daytime person over the years and know, okay, I need to be in bed by 10:30, 11 at the latest on work nights, on school nights. And I also need to know when I need to cut ties with communication, whether that be online, actually talking to somebody on the phone, in person, whatever, because I feed off the energy of other people. And so when I'm with them, if I'm still having this conversation and it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm not going to bed because now I'm all fired up. So I need to elaborate on, you need to know your times. Like that is a very important thing. And in the morning, it's a struggle for me sometimes to get myself up and going. Like I'd rather not. But by knowing that first hour of the morning is mine for my own mental health, my physical health. So if it's exercising or journaling or a nice long shower with some aromatherapy, whatever it is, that's my time. And nothing starts until that's done. Then I go into, this is my day. And I'm already in a better headspace to be excited about, okay, now I'm going to have these meetings, or I'm going to meet up with these people, or I have a coaching session, or I'm going to be on a live. It's like I had to get my head in the game first to know what I wanted to do. That's what I recommend you do. Go in and find out, when am I at my best? How am I going to start my day? And how am I going to end my day? And then in between, find the joy in things. Find the joy in being present. Find the joy in the beauty of something. Listen to your favorite music when you're driving to work or whatever you're doing. I don't know about you, but if I'm in my car and some song comes on that I am absolutely all over, like, we just turned it into a club. Like, it's happening. Like, I know people are like, what's going on over there? I'm like, hi, hello. But then they see me and they're like smiling, and then they're like dancing along too. So see, it's contagious. Like, I'm giving it to you and you're giving it to me, and it's a whole thing. So just start having more fun. Find fun in everything. That's the igniting, the fun and the curiosity and the adventure of life. Whatever you're doing, personal or business, it's there. That's why you're here. That's why you're doing what you're doing, because you're enjoying it, because you love it, because you're having so much fun meeting all these people and doing all these things.
Oh, man. I said this to my husband the other day, because I drive more by myself now than I used to. And like, I'm like, gee, Celine Dion came on the other day, and I was just belting it in the car. And I'm not as good as Celine Dion.
Your heart will go on.
Give credit where credit is due. She's amazing. I don't sound quite like that, but like, she has all those like belting it out songs, right? And so when I'm just like, and it feels so good. And this is the thing, you guys, is that like, that's a thing that feels good for me. That's not a thing that feels good for all people. It's just important to pay attention to what does feel good for you. In those moments where you, like, my favorite thing to listen to while I'm doing dishes is the Encanto soundtrack, and I can just sing those songs.
Right on.
And, like, musical theater is my jam. And you know what's funny is I grew up not doing musical theater, but we had a very, like, my family was very singy and dancey, right? So we would just like sing in the car. I remember driving once from like Edmonton to Winnipeg. It was a long drive, right? It was like 12-hour drive or 16-hour drive, and singing the whole way in the car, right? My dad used to say living in our house was like living in a musical. And so like, it just is in me, and it feels so good. And the other day, when usually I'm taking a shower and Nicholas is still sleeping, so I don't listen to music. But the other day he was off with my parents, so I turned the music on and I'm just singing in the shower. And I was like, this is my jam, right? And so it's just about paying attention to like, what are those things? What are those things that you do that gives you so much joy that like you just want to stay in the moment, right? And do that a little bit more, and then do it a little bit more. And then here's the magic part about all of this, you guys, is that the more you do those things, the more you find space to be enthusiastic. You start to notice the things you care about. I want to talk a little bit about this, Claudia, because you and I are both entrepreneurial, right? There are a lot of people who have to work from 9 to 5, right? And so they have less freedom in their time choices. Let's put it that way. And then let's add on the fact that if someone is parenting and taking their kid to dance class or blah, 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 that there starts to be a lot of time commitments. So how can you start to influence these moments of fun that we start to realize into what might seem like a very rigid time schedule?
Oh, I can so relate to that. You know me, I have multiple avenues of things that I do. So I am always on time, kind of a time schedule. That's why we couldn't do Fridays, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that's really, really cool is if you actually you're working somewhere, you're going somewhere, there's going to be people that you like to see, whether they're at your job or at your kid's school or whatever. Make a second of your time to say hello to them. How are you? And usually what's going to happen is within 2 seconds, you're going to be laughing about something. Do you know what happened today? This is what happened. This was my morning. So by having those conversations, you're going to then get back into your car. You're already going to be smiling and laughing. Somebody that you met at work, that you like, you're around the coffee and you're getting your coffee and how's everything going and you're catching up on stuff. And when you leave them, even if it's just like a 5-second conversation about what show you were streaming last night, you're like, oh, I feel good. Like, yeah, this is great. I like it. When you're in your office by yourself, put on some music, a podcast that you like. If there's a way for you to take a minute when you take your breaks and read something that means something to you, or go for a walk around, go outside for a minute. That's one of the things that I tend to do a lot, especially when you're in a kind of the rat race of working, whether it's a 9 to 5 or, a 10 to 8 or 10 to 7 or whatever you're doing. You go outside for a minute and just breathe and get a fresh perspective. Nature is so beautiful. This time of year, I've seen some pretty amazing sunrises and sunsets, and I'm like, wow, like just seeing that. Even my drive home, sometimes I'm like, the sun is right in my face and I can't see, but I'm like, wow, that's really, notice my change as a man, I can't see, and all these people are in my way, and why is this guy driving so slow? But when I'm stopped sitting and waiting at a light, I'm like, wow, that's a gorgeous sunset. Like, that's fantastic. Finding that purity as opposed to chaos, and feeding into the chaos as opposed to feeding into the beauty, it changes how you feel. And again, by feeling that sunset, I'm like, wow, that's really beautiful. And it just gave me a pause. A pause is worth an hour. It's worth a minute, a second, whatever it is. It can be like time just stood still for a minute. And those are the moments that you really need to embrace and take as a gratitude. Wow, this is really cool that I actually get to be a part of this. And when you do that, it brings the joy back into your life. That joy that you're looking for is part of that flame that you're trying to ignite. And there's the enthusiasm again. Then you start thinking of all the cool places sunsets happen, and wow, I could have been doing this, but this is happening. So when you get those moments, stop and pause in them for a minute. Even if it's 20 seconds, that's enough. That's enough to make you go, wow, that was great. Now I can go back to what I was doing because I actually was experiencing my life for a minute.
It's just like a reset moment, right? And it doesn't have to take a huge amount of time. I remember when I used to, was driving home from work when I was in corporate and I had to commute in rush hour traffic, and you go like 30 kilometers an hour, which is like, 15 miles an hour. So you're just like, and it takes forever, right? You're not going anywhere, and it's boring because you don't even really have to pay attention to the traffic because it's just going at a snail's pace. And what I realized is that this is the perfect time for me to call somebody I'm thinking about.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So because I have the hands free, right? So I just call, and there's no road noise because I'm not moving fast enough for there to be road noise. And just have a conversation with somebody that I wouldn't. So I pick a different person every day, sometimes 2 people if the conversation ended up being short, and just talk to people, because talking to people is something that lights me up, right? Again, if you're talking to people isn't what lights you up, then maybe don't do that. But think about how can I use this time? One of the other things that I realized for myself just the other day, and I don't like TV, right? I don't like to watch TV because I watch TV for no purpose, right? I don't there are some shows that I watch. I like the baking competition shows.
Cool.
And the Masked Singer. For anyone else who watches the Masked Singer, please message me so we can talk about it. But
you want my mom's number?
Yeah, we can talk about it. Unless we're gonna fight about it, in which case I don't. But I don't like to just sit and watch TV, right? Because it does nothing for me, right? And then when I look at the time I spend, I'm just like, that is time I spent purposely not igniting my enthusiasm. Because I would rather. So I've actually switched in the last I think it was about a week ago. I realized that Oh no, not even that long ago, on Friday, because I was having a conversation with my life coach, and I was like, I just hate watching TV, especially just for it to be on, right? Like, I don't like it. I would rather like I'm learning Spanish. I would rather do an extra module of Spanish. I would rather write in my journal. I would rather do LinkedIn conversations, right? Because I feel like it does nothing for me. Unless it's the Masked Singer and they're singing and dancing, and then it taps into that like singing and dancing part of me and my dream. And then I drive in the car and sing Celine Dion, imagining that I'm on the Masked Singer.
We could do the math conversation and see who's in the room, and you guys could all guess about it. There you go, and you could play some music. Anyway.
Oh man, we should do that as part of the Bonanza.
I would totally do it.
We're totally doing that. Thank you for that. That's gonna be fun. Okay. Anyway, back to the point.
Sorry. I told everyone this was going to be fun because you never know what's going to come out of our mouths. But I had an idea, and when ideas come to me, then I get excited.
And
but
you're
right.
Tracy,
don't do things that you don't want to do, right? If it's not something you like doing, you don't have to do it. Who told you had to do it? So if you don't like doing it, don't do it.
And here's the other thing I realized too, because like my parents, what they do together is watch TV. That's the thing they do together.
Yes.
Right? I don't like to watch TV. My husband likes to watch football on TV. Okay, the other day, he's going to be mad that I revealed this on LinkedIn Live, but he was watching a podcast of people talking about fantasy football. And he's like watching a podcast, so it's not even like a show. It's just like two guys facing each other talking about fantasy football. And he was watching this. I said, are you watching two guys talk about fantasy football? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, he plays fantasy football and he's all into it. But like, I just don't want to do that, right? That doesn't mean that he can't do that. If that doesn't if that creates enthusiasm for him, then I actually want him to do that. I just want to do something different while he's doing that. And this is allowed, right? This is available to us. And I think as our families get bigger, sometimes we think like, we all have to, when I was a kid, we used to sit and watch ER together as a family.
Yes.
Right? And that was our like family activity we did. But if you don't like to Netflix and chill, that is fine, right? I know it's very common in society, but like, I like to watch a movie. I will watch movies, but I don't like to watch TV. And that's okay. So you don't have to like make trades about who you are.
Oh, good one.
To give people around you the space to do what is right for them. You can do what's right for you, and they can do what's right for them, and they can be two different things, and we can live in harmony together.
And everyone will be happy together because they got to do their things.
Right.
You don't have to sacrifice. If you're trying to do something because someone else enjoys it and they'd like you to come along, you know, give it a try every now and then, because you might find you might like it. But if you realize you really don't like it, then speak up and say, you know what, that's really your thing and I totally support it. Absolutely. Go ahead. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So
enjoy. That's it. And like my husband likes to drink beer. I like to drink wine. I have taken him wine tasting and he likes it. He has taken me craft beer tasting and I like it. Right. I would still choose wine, but that's my prerogative.
Right.
These are the things. So we can work together. But like I used to play basketball and my husband is tall, but that doesn't mean he wants to come and play basketball. I used to think that just because people were tall meant that meant they wanted to play basketball, but it's not true. So it's just, again, I feel like it's about that permission to let ourselves have our things and let other people have their things and say, if I'm trying to create a world full of more enthusiasm, what does that look like? It requires me giving people space to do things that aren't my jam as well.
Exactly. And it requires you to do things that are your jam for yourself. Right. And be okay with it and realize everyone else is doing their thing. You are allowed to do your thing. So again, giving yourself permission to do your thing and make you happy and ignite yourself. Because your happiness is in your control. You have the power for it. So your happiness and your joy, all those things go into enthusiasm. They all come together.
Okay, so I've decided that part of this show is, because I've just done it for the last 3 shows and I like it, is that we have a challenge. We're going to have a challenge for everybody at the end of every show. So your challenge today, folks, is that find one of the things, investigate, explore, discover, one of the things that gives you joy, and do it one more time today.
I love it. That's good. That's great. You can do that. You can do it. I support you.
Everybody can do it. And you don't have to do it for a long time, right? Like you have belting out Celine Dion. You don't have to sing an entire concert. Your throat will hurt. I wouldn't be able to talk tomorrow. But sing one song, right? Get it. I don't know. Go for a walk, right? Just take a moment. If you like to draw or color, just like take 5 minutes and do that, right? I have this belief that if we decided to, everybody has 10 minutes. Even if you looked at your day and you're like, I am fully booked today. What am I going to do? There is 10 minutes. There is 10 minutes somewhere, if you're looking for it, for you to do a thing that brings you joy. Even if that's walking to your mailbox so you get outside for a walk and walking back, right? And walking slower than you normally would. I have found this to be like really helpful when I'm going for a walk instead of like rushing for a walk, walking slow and intentional. So that's your challenge for today, everybody, is for you to find one of the things. Everybody has multiple things, to be clear, but just one of them. Just find one of the things and do it one more time. Yes, today. And if that is like, you know what? I love listening to Tracy and Claudia. You can watch this on replay.
Yeah, keep going. Just keep going. We'll be with you all day long.
Yeah, we're here. You can just like message us. We'll talk to you. It's
totally. Tell us what you did. Tell us what your challenge was.
Yes. Tell us what brings you joy and what you did to have one more bit of it in your day today. Can we do bonus challenge? I'm going to give you a bonus challenge. Take that thing you learned about yourself today and that you did one of today and do it 2 times. Tomorrow. And tomorrow is Wednesday, hump day. So 2 times, infuse more joy into your day. And this is the secret to igniting your enthusiasm. Not my enthusiasm, not Claudia's enthusiasm, your unique brand of enthusiasm, which is what we want you to have. We don't want everybody to be like this. That's not the point.
That might be a lot.
We want you to be like you, your unique brand of enthusiasm. Oh, okay. We could actually talk all day, but I'm going to wrap it up. Claudia, if people want to learn more from you about how they might be able to ignite their enthusiasm, where is the best place to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can also find me on my website, which is www.claudiawyatt.com.
Boom, her name and the website. And Claudia is tagged in this post, in this live. So if you're not already connected with her, click on her name and go over and connect with her and be like, I saw you on Tracy's live and we should ignite our enthusiasm together. You can say what you want, but something along those lines so she knows where you came from. Please say what you want. You don't know Tracy's script. This is not a thing I believe. Say, use your own words to describe what Claudia means to you. And likewise, for those of you who are not connected with me, I would love to connect with you. Send me a request and be like, yes, let's all ignite our enthusiasm together. Because here is the last thing I'm going to say, maybe the last thing I'm going to say, is that when you are surrounded by people who are living into their enthusiasm, it's easier to give yourself permission to do that as well. So it's not about your enthusiasm looking like this. It's about being surrounded by people who are in the conversation, who want this for you, who want this for you every day, who want this for you in this moment and every single moment after this for the rest of your life. So surround yourself with those people. Get your peeps, your enthusiasm peeps around you, and stay in the conversation. Because your access to enthusiasm, as much as we would love to be fairies that can just sprinkle.
Who said I wasn't a fairy?
Enthusiasm dust on you. You got to hang out with Claudia in order for her to continually sprinkle her dust on you. That's, like Tinkerbell when she like sprinkles the dust and then you get to fly for like a minute. you got to stay around the fairies in order to like get your sprinkle dust on.
I love it.
So make sure you do that. Stay in the conversation, and we'll be super happy to stay in the conversation. Also, check out the peeps who are in the comments. These are also people who are in the enthusiasm conversation. Connect with each other and have some conversations. And let's see where this conversation can take us.
Woo! Exciting!
Anywhere you want. Oh, thank you so much for your time and your genius and your enthusiasm today, Claudia. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for back at you, because I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't with you. So let's make this happen.
This is what we do. We get the peeps in front of the peeps so everybody can have more peeps and do the things that make their lives happier.
I love it.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining in the chat. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, everybody who's watching this on replay. And until next time, permission to do you.